The first time it happened, I was 11 years old and convinced I was finally old enough to stay home alone. My parents were going to a wedding in another city just for the night, and my older cousin canceled at the last minute. I begged. I promised not to open the door for anyone, not to touch the stove, not to stay up late. Eventually, they agreed. They left me with frozen food, my phone fully charged, and a list of emergency numbers taped to the fridge. At first, it felt amazing. The house was quiet in a way it never was. No TV playing in the background, no footsteps upstairs, no voices calling my name. I made popcorn, turned on cartoons, and sprawled across the couch like I owned the place. Outside, the sun went down slowly, and the windows turned into dark mirrors. Around 9:30 p.m., I heard the first sound. It was faint, a soft thump from upstairs. I paused the TV and listened. The house creaked the way it always did, especially at night. I told myself that was all it was. Old wood. Settling. Still. I turned the volume lower. A few minutes later, there was another sound. This time it wasn't a thump. It was the unmistakable sound of something sliding, like a drawer being pushed closed. My heart started beating faster. I grabbed my phone and texted my mom, telling her I thought I heard something. She replied with a smiley face and said it was probably the house and that I was safe. I wanted to believe her. I stood at the bottom of the stairs, staring up into the darkness. The upstairs light was off, and the hallway looked longer than usual. I called out, "Hello." My voice sounded small. No answer. I went back to the couch, but I couldn't focus anymore. Every sound felt louder. The ticking clock. The hum of the fridge. Then, clearly from upstairs, I heard footsteps. Slow. Careful. Someone was walking across the floor. I froze. My eyes locked on the stairs. The steps stopped. Then one creaked, like someone had put weight on it. I screamed my parents' names without thinking, my voice cracking. The footsteps stopped instantly. I didn't wait. I ran to the front door, yanked it open, and bolted onto the porch barefoot. I didn't care about the cold. I didn't care if I looked ridiculous. I called my parents again, crying this time. They turned the car around. When they got home, they searched every room. Closets. Under beds. The attic. The basement. They found nothing. But in my bedroom upstairs, my desk drawer was open. I know I closed it that morning. Years later, my parents admitted something they hadn't told me that night. When my dad checked the back door, he found muddy footprints on the kitchen floor. They led from the back door to the stairs. The lock had been forced. The second story happened much later, when I was 16. I was home alone on a rainy afternoon while my parents ran errands. It was the kind of rain that makes the world feel smaller, trapping you inside with the sound of water pounding against the windows. I was in my room with headphones on, watching videos on my laptop. That's probably why I didn't hear the doorbell at first. When I finally noticed it, it was because my phone vibrated with a notification from our door camera app. Someone was at the front door. I took off my headphones and checked the live feed. A man stood on the porch, soaked from the rain. He wore a hoodie pulled low over his face. He rang the bell again and leaned toward the camera. I didn't recognize him. I stayed quiet. My parents had taught me never to answer the door when I was alone. After a minute, the man stepped back, looking around. Then he walked off the porch, out of view. I relaxed a little and went back to my room. 5 minutes later, I heard a sound from downstairs. A door opening. Slowly, I crept to my bedroom door and listened. The sound came again. The unmistakable creak of the back door. My stomach dropped. I locked my bedroom door and called my mom. She answered, and I whispered that someone might be in the house. She told me to stay where I was and called the police while keeping me on the line. I could hear movement downstairs. Drawers opening. Cabinets closing. Footsteps moving from room to room. Then the footsteps started up the stairs. Each step was deliberate. Heavy. They stopped outside my door. I held my breath, staring at the handle. It rattled slightly, as if someone tested it. Then, to my horror, the handle began to turn. The door didn't open. After a few seconds, the handle stopped moving. The footsteps retreated, slowly, back down the stairs. The police arrived minutes later. They found the back door open and muddy footprints leading through the kitchen. The man was gone. What still haunts me is what the officer told us afterward. The man at the door hadn't been trying to sell anything or ask for help. He had been checking if anyone was home. The third story belongs to my friend Lily, but I was there when it happened. We were both 14, and I was sleeping over at her house. Her parents went out for dinner, leaving us alone for a couple of hours. We planned to watch movies and eat snacks, nothing special. It was already dark outside when the power went out. The TV shut off mid-scene, and the house fell into silence. Lily laughed nervously and grabbed her phone to use the flashlight. We checked outside and saw that the entire street was dark. "No big deal," she said. "It happens sometimes." We lit a couple of candles and sat on the couch, trying to continue our movie on her tablet. That's when we heard knocking. 3 slow knocks on the front door. We looked at each other. Lily stood up and walked toward the door, but I grabbed her arm. "Don't," I whispered. She hesitated, then called out, "Who is it?" There was no answer. The knocking came again, louder this time. Lily stepped closer to the door and peeked through the peephole. Her face went pale. "There's no one there," she said. Before we could react, the knocking moved. It was coming from the back of the house now. A pounding sound against the kitchen door. We backed away, hearts racing. The pounding stopped, and for a moment, everything was quiet. Then we heard scratching. It came from the wall behind the couch. Soft at first, then more frantic, like nails dragging across the surface. We jumped up, screaming, and ran upstairs, locking ourselves in Lily's room. We called her parents, crying so hard we could barely speak. Her dad told us to stay put and called the police. The scratching continued for what felt like forever. It moved along the wall, then stopped directly under the window. A shadow passed over the curtain. We huddled together until the sound of sirens finally cut through the darkness. The police searched the area and found a man hiding behind Lily's shed. He had tools in his pockets and scratch marks on his hands. What terrifies me to this day is that the scratching wasn't random. He had been looking for a way in. The fourth story is the one that still makes my hands shake when I think about it. It happened just last year. I was home alone late at night, my parents stuck out of town because of a storm. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows. I locked every door and window and tried to distract myself with music and games. Around midnight, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I ignored it. Then it buzzed again. And again. Finally, I answered, my voice shaky. "Hello." All I heard was breathing. Slow. Deep. Too close to the microphone. "Who is this?" I asked. The breathing stopped. Then a voice whispered my name. I hung up and blocked the number, my heart pounding. I told myself it was a prank. It had to be. A minute later, the power went out. The house plunged into darkness. My phone buzzed again. Same number. A text message appeared. "I can still see you." I ran to the window and pulled the curtain aside just enough to look out. At the edge of the yard, barely visible in the storm, stood a figure. A phone screen glowed in their hand. I dropped the curtain and ran to the bathroom, locking the door. I called the police, whispering as I told them what was happening. They told me to stay hidden. I heard the back door slam open. Footsteps echoed through the house, slow and confident, like whoever it was knew exactly where they were going. My phone buzzed one last time. "Don't hide." The footsteps stopped outside the bathroom door. I covered my mouth to keep from screaming. Then suddenly there was shouting. A loud crash. The footsteps ran away. The police arrived moments later. They chased someone through the storm but lost them in the woods behind our house. They never caught the person. But sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet and my phone vibrates unexpectedly, I remember that night. And I wonder how close I came to never being alone again.